Hello, hello. Welcome back. It's good to see you. The $1,000,000 question, what should you be investing for, cash flow or appreciation? Which is better? When does it make sense to do one over the other? These are all questions that I get often, and we're going to try to tackle that question today. My name is Tommy Brandt with TB Capital Group, where we invest in real estate assets with a primary focus on apartment buildings. And today, we're going to set out to answer the question that's as old as time itself, probably, and that's whether to invest for cash flow or appreciation. Let's jump in. But before we get too far, this is where I put in a disclaimer that I am not a financial advisor and I do not encourage anyone to make investment decisions based off of this video alone. So be sure to do your own due diligence, understand as much as you can, and that's probably why you're watching this video, so good on you. And so as we start to peel back the layers of this question, recognize that this is a very personal question for you or for the investor or whoever the person is set out to try to answer that question. And the answer to this equation has multiple variables, like your life circumstance, like your age, your marital situation, how many dependents you have, your life circumstance, your appetite for risk, your goals, your timeline, all of that, bunch of factors that get shoved into this one small equation to try to answer this question. And so the answer for one person over here is not going to be the same as the other person over here. But as we approach this topic, there are some generalities that you can probably practice. So kind of the evolution of an investor is there would be an accumulation phase of net worth assets, and then there would be a distribution phase of being able to live off of said assets and liquidity. And so typically early on in life, there's an accumulation phase where you're going through savings, you are investing those savings, and you are accumulating and compounding interest, and you're trying to get to kind of a nest egg freedom number, if you will. And then at some point, you start to want to live off of those dividends or the distributions and kind of go through a distribution phase where you start to pay yourself back and live off of the cash flow that you've created for yourself. And so there's different steps to try to get to that financial freedom number. But at a certain point, you need to be able to live off of the passive income created by your accumulation, but you also need to account for future inflation. And as far as the different assets that you're going to accumulate during that accumulation phase needs to be diversified. And so your portfolio needs to have some mix of appreciating assets, some cash flowing assets, some capital preservation, and then maybe there's some room in there for the highly speculative assets as well. And now that we've covered some of the generalities and best practices associated with hitting your freedom number or your nest egg number, let's circle back around to our initial question of cash flow or appreciation. But let's talk about the topic of financial independence and what that means. There's financial security, there's financial independence, and then there's financial abundance. Financial security is whenever you have enough cash flow from your investments coming in that could pay for just your bare bones cost of living. So things like your groceries, your living expenses, your mortgage, your insurance, taxes, whatever, your rent, whatever obligations you have at a bare minimum. If you have enough cash flow that's coming from your investments that can service that, then that would help you reach financial security. That is kind of the minimum threshold there. If you wanted to explore the options of retiring early, that's what you would need to service at a minimum. Ideally, you would also be able to account for inflation, but generally speaking, cash flow is going to be more prevalent for the distribution phase, which is well after you've accumulated all the assets where you can live off of the cash flow or just taking distribution of the assets that you've accumulated over that time. Now let's move over to the other side of the same coin, which is appreciation. And appreciation is basically where you're trying to multiply your equity several times over when you're in the accumulation phase. And this is the part that's really handy whenever you're trying to battle things like inflation. But not only inflation now, but also inflation in the future, which is a compounding element. And so multiplying your equity is going to be really critical to be able to account for the unknowns in the future. You may be investing in some assets where you have an opportunity to force appreciation, whether that's buying a business and putting in a better manager or best practices or operations and procedures, or you're buying a real estate asset and you're fixing it up to sell or refinance or what have you. And just to share my personal opinion and experience, I hate choosing. So that's why I like having both. Diversified in my portfolio, but if you can have both in the same asset, then that's where it becomes really magical. And what we typically look for in apartment buildings is an opportunity where we are cash flowing, around month 12, sometimes before, sometimes after, and then we're also forcing appreciation, so we get that equity multiple going in there as well. So there are some unique opportunities in this space where you can have cash flow and appreciation, have your cake and eat it too. So that's why I'm drawn to investing in apartment buildings. It's worth recapping of cash flow versus appreciation argument is very specific to everyone in particular. So be sure to consult an all-star team like your tax strategist or financial advisor or other investors that are in your circle that you know, like, and trust. And more than anything, I think it's important to be diversified. And that's it for our debate of cash flow versus appreciation. I hope there was something in there that added value. If there was, be sure to comment and like the video. And if you haven't, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're like me and you like real estate investing videos, then be sure to check out some of the other videos on this channel. If there's someone in your network that you may think this may add value to, you have my permission to share the video. Thank you for stopping by. Have an amazing day. I'll see you on the next one.